Hello everyone, this is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and we are now starting our Facebook Live for our spiritual empowerment community, our Facebook group. And it looks like my kitty cat has just joined us. We have not had a Facebook Live in here for like 2 months, maybe a little bit more. So I think it'll take a few minutes before people start to join in. Let me grab my cat because she's going to keep bothering me. Where'd you go? Hi. Come on, say hi to everybody. Okay. All right. Hi. She's not much for the for the camera. But she loves to be held like a baby like this. She's totally purring. Oh, well, you guys, I have some things to share today. And so if you're watching this part, you're watching the replay because we don't have anybody joining yet. But I am going to start my spiel in just a second here. She is digging her claws in. Oh, my goodness. She likes to be patted like a baby, too. Isn't that funny? Oh my goodness. Okay, you're gonna go back here. Ouch, 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 claws. Ah, sorry. I didn't mean to throw her. I was trying to get her off of me because her claws were digging in. Okay, so now you had little internet kitty cat time. So, now I actually do have some things that I want to share with you. I was going to go live a couple of hours ago, and I realized that I really needed a nap. So I'm all about self-care. So I went ahead and did that, and I just realized I kind of have bedhead a little bit, and I look like I just get out of bed because I did take a wonderful 1 hour nap or longer. I'm not sure how long it was. So just a little bit of logistics until we get into a lesson for today. Those of you who are in the group, who are in the Facebook group, know about this, I think, unless you're new. If you're watching this on YouTube, then take note. So this is the Spiritual Empowerment Community with me, Maya Zahira. And twice a year we have a special event in the group that is really awesome. So in January, so just a few months back, we had our big event. We had the 14-day, hey kitty, I don't know what she's doing. Back in January, we had the 14-day spiritual empowerment activation, and that was really awesome. Those of you who participated in it, I know, really loved it. It was we did a Facebook Live every single day for 14 days, and I took you through this really powerful process. And then I'm planning on, in June, doing something similar, the 7-day energy tune-up. So similar but different. And so if all goes as planned, I do plan to do that in June, and I plan to do both of those every year. So stick with this group and kind of mark your calendar and keep your ears perked up so that you know when those happen and you can participate, and they're totally free. So here's what I do. The work that I do, this is what I do full time. I teach classes. Most of my work is done online. I also do one-on-one sessions, but most of my focus is on teaching and classes. And so those two events that I talked about are free, but I also have some paid programs, and my Spiritual Empowerment Academy is this really awesome program that's like the free events, but it's even more, and it's ongoing. And you can find that on my website, www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. Okay, so enough about all of that. That's how you can get more. That's how you can get more connected. This is a little update about what I've been going through, and then a little lesson that I have for you. And by the way, I do plan to do more Facebook Lives here coming up in the future. And I was just telling one of my clients, it was really interesting that at the very beginning of the year, when I was getting clear on my vision for this year for, personal and work. And I was tuning in intuitively, and I was asking, when am I supposed to schedule Facebook Lives for this group? Because I'm a very organized person, so I was thinking, okay, so I'm gonna do it every like Monday or every whatever. And what I got was, no, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to just do it when you do it. And so I was like, okay, all right. So I'm thinking, all right, so I'm just going to organically end up doing one like every couple of weeks or something. Well, what ended up happening was after we finished our 14-day spiritual empowerment activation, I went directly, I didn't know this was going to happen, but it totally makes sense. I went directly into a really huge period of personal transformation that has lasted this whole time, so over 2 months. And so I was doing my regular work, my paid programs, and working with my clients. And then the rest of the time I was deeply immersed in my stuff and working on my stuff. The 14-day spiritual empowerment activation is all about personal transformation. It's all about like moving your boulders and moving that stuff out of the way, clearing that stuff out, healing it. And if you've never been in a spiritual leadership role, I want to just tell you a little tidbit, and that is that whenever you take people through a powerful process, a lot of times it's going to happen, it's going to take you through a powerful process as well, and sometimes even more intense, a lot of times even more intense. And that has happened to me like a million times. Like when I'm getting ready to teach a workshop on a particular topic, whatever it might be, then I end up going through something. A lot of times it'll be beforehand or during. I'll go through something, really vital or really intense that then, helps me grow in that way. And then I bring that new knowledge and that new energy to that workshop or that class or whatever. Excuse me, I've got something happening with the throat chakra as I'm talking about this. So that's what happened with me. Was after I got done with the 14-day journey with you guys, like I went into some deep stuff. So I ended up in February and March, I ended up going on 2 trips. And the first one that I went on was the first time I had traveled in 11, flown, like gone very far in 11 years. So I haven't been a huge traveler in the last several years. So it's not like every year I'm jet setting like all over the place. Like I'm kind of a homebody actually. And so when I went on the first trip, it was because I felt deeply compelled. So I didn't have any plans to travel before, like in January. I didn't know that I was going to be traveling, or actually I'm off a month. So I ended up traveling at the end of, January. So right after we finished our 14-day journey, I went to Sedona, like right after we finished our 14-day activation. And then at the end of February, then I went back to Arizona not to Sedona, but to Phoenix and Tucson. And now here we are in March. It's almost the end of March, so it feels like anyway, so my months are off. But so I felt compelled to get out of town, to remove myself and to go somewhere else and to get some clarity. And I'm just laughing because it's like, a lot of what I went through is going to go into my next book. because there was a lot that happened, and it's like impossible for me to just tell it in a video because there's different layers. But let's just say that both trips did not go as expected, like at all. And what else do I want to say? So both of them didn't go as expected, and my intent was to remove myself from this region of the world. Like, I wanted to just go to another region of the world, and the whole idea that I had was, in doing so, I'll get like more clarity, and just like going there is going to be super peaceful, and I'm going to get all this spiritual renewal, and then I'm going to come back, because I had been working a lot and being of service a lot. So I'm like, I'm going to go, I'm going to get some clarity, I'm going to fill myself back up, and then I'm going to come back. And both my trips were actually really short. For both trips, I flew out on Monday, and then I came back on Friday. And in fact, I flew out late on Monday. So like Monday, I wasn't even really at the location. I would like get in late, go to bed. So I'd have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, get up and go to the airport on Friday. So I had 3 days for both trips. So fairly short, but enough time to do what I thought I was going to be doing, which is like get some clarity and recharging. That didn't happen at all. What ended up happening was like huge amounts of stuff got stirred up for me. And I have to be honest, if I had known that that was going to happen, I probably would have just stayed home, because I really wanted to relax. Like I said, I'd been working a lot, being of service, and you know, I really didn't intend to like have my butt kicked really bad on these trips. And again, all of the details of like what that was, I'm gonna share in my next book. And right now it's 2019, March 2019. I'm expecting, I've been mapping out the book, but I have not even begun writing it. So it's not going to be on the shelves next week is what I'm saying. Yeah, so both trips went kind of crazy, and the second trip really like major. But what both trips did was they activated, so I had these experiences on the trip, but then they also activated a lot of stuff for me, not easy stuff, a lot of uncomfortable stuff. So I was catapulted into like this huge questioning process, which I'm not going to go into exactly what the questioning process was about, but I'll probably talk about it at some other point. But like this huge questioning process of figuring out, I'll say this, like figuring out certain aspects of my life path, certain aspects of what that's going to look like, certain details that I hadn't questioned before. And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, okay, what am I supposed to do about this? Maybe I'm supposed to do this, maybe I'm supposed to do that. And then what that did was that totally activated like tons of root chakra stuff for me. So by root chakra stuff, I mean like survival issues, like fear, that kind of stuff. And I've spent many years of my life healing a lot of those issues. A lot of people on the planet have root chakra issues, survival issues, you know, like feelings of, you know, like fear. Like by survival, I mean like paying your bills. Where are you going to live? Are you going to have a safe place to live? You know, your family, your tribe, your whole foundation. Yeah, so I mean, my bills are paid right now. Like everything's fine right now, but just when I went through this like questioning process of looking to the future and questioning some things about my life path, considering making some big changes in the future, like activated all this fear, like big time fear. And so then I was like in my brain for like, instead of like in my intuition and my body and connected to my soul, I was like in this thought loop for like 3 weeks. I was like blah 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 blah. And I had a couple people who said to me, you know, you're just like thinking too much or whatever. But the thing is, I mean, yeah, that was probably true. But like, I just kind of had to, what's the phrase I'm thinking of? Like, I just had to get that out of my system. Like, I couldn't just say, okay, you're right, I need to stop thinking so much. I had to just let that cycle through, if that makes sense. So in hindsight, that's what I get, because that makes sense now to me, because I like could not get out of that loop. Like, what am I going to do? Blah, 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 blah. So I just honored that, and I just let it, you know, naturally cycle through. And then I went on the next trip to Phoenix and Tucson, and that was cray cray. Like, that story is definitely going to be in my next book, and it's kind of unbelievable. Like, I told a couple of people about what happened, and they were like, that really happened? I'm like, yeah, it really happened. So yeah, so cray cray trip and really uncomfortable. Hello, Glenda, good to see you. So I'm just sharing a big long story. So anyway, let me look at my notes so I can get back on track. All right, so the last couple of months were this like personal transformation whirlwind. It's not a bad thing when that happens. For me, I think that on some level, like, my soul likes to just face things head on and like do the big work and make the huge transformations. And sometimes it's really messy. Like, there's all this energy getting flung all over. It's like blah blah blah. It's like if you were to clean your house, clean your room in like record speed, and stuff is flying all over, and then but then everything's put back in place and everything is better than before. Like, that's kind of what I was doing. It's like, oh my God. So then when I got back from the trip, it took me there was a whole week, and so there was a whole week where I was just recovering from that trip, because it was a really challenging trip. And it kind of seems like it would have taken me a lot longer to recover from that trip, because it was really upsetting and really hard. But I did huge amounts of self-care, and I would go out, and I live out in the country. I look out onto the prairie. I would go outside and just lie on my back and just let all of that frenetic energy just discharge from me, because there were some things that happened on the trip that were very scary for me, and it actually activated some past PTSD for me. And so, and I recognized that, like, I could feel that had happened. And so I made sure to do a lot of self-care so that I wasn't continuing to walk around with that reactivated. So surprisingly, I was able to really ground a lot of that just in a week. And then I went and I was doing psychic readings at a local psychic fair. And that, you know, even though I was in the role of being of service to a lot of people, that weekend was super healing for me. Just being able, I don't want to sound cheesy, you guys, but just being able to be of service and touch so many people's lives. And like, after the first handful of readings that I did, I literally felt so much of my strength just come back, like, and my clarity of purpose, because that second trip, the one to Phoenix and Tucson, like I said, it was scary. It was really upsetting, and it really threw me off so much that I I had trouble functioning, and I was just lying on the earth, like, trying to repair my energy from what happened. And then being at that psychic fair and working with the different individuals, after a handful of readings, I was just like, this is, I don't know how to describe it, but I just felt all my strength and my purpose. Not that I ever lost my purpose, but I just felt all of that coming back to me. And like, you know, just this focus. I don't know how to describe it. I think that makes sense though, right? So then I felt a lot better. But then now, so kind of going through my whole update of everything that's been going on. Then I'm looking at some messages here. And I just lost my train of thought. And I don't have any water today. I need a drink of water. That usually helps me refocus. So we're having a mint instead. So after the psychic fair, I then went into last week. And some weird stuff happened last week. And that's where I'm going to bring us around from my story to a little lesson. So last week's energy was really interesting. It was a continuation of a lot of personal transformation work for me. Like I said, there are a lot of times when how my system works is I tend to like really go through like the AP, the advanced placement version of Earth School, where I'm like, let's just do this. And your personal transformation process does not have to be like so uncomfortable. I've always felt like on some level, there's a part of me that has given permission to just sometimes do it the more uncomfortable way so that I can move through things more quickly. And you might be that way as well, or you might choose to go through things more gently, and it's all good. Like sometimes I wish things were a little more gentle. So either way is good. Just describing how that works. So last week, another wave of personal transformation stuff came up for me because I had this whole cascade of different interpersonal situations. And actually, I had had a few over the last couple of months during this period overall that were really upsetting and that really hurt. And then last week, all of a sudden, it was like boom, 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 boom. And then I was like, ah! Like I was like literally crying and like shaking my fist to the sky. I'm laughing about it now, but I was like so frustrated and hurt and upset, and because I don't understand why people act the way that they do sometimes. I'm an empath. I'm really sensitive. I think about other people's feelings, and so when people do things that are just really crappy, like intentionally crappy, I'm like, that just really sucks, you know? And so as I was processing that, and I had a lot of hurt, and then it was all this like collective snowball. So it wasn't just one individual situation. It's like this stuff has been happening for a while. Like we all have those encounters, but over the last couple of months during this intense process, there was a long-term friend who just did something really, really, really hurtful and left my life. So I was still grieving that. And even just speaking about that makes me feel really sad. And then a couple of other things. And then this past week, then this other little cascade, right? So I'm processing it. I'm having like all of these, you guys, I'm just laughing because I get emotional so easy. But hello, Christina. So I'm processing all these feelings, and I'm feeling like really sad, really upset, and just so frustrated. And I'm trying to like work through it. And I want to share with you this like thought process that I went through. So after sharing this whole like catching up with Maya story, now we get into the lesson. So there's this teaching that is all about don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. So whatever other people say and do is a reflection of them and not you. And I happen to think this is a really good teaching. But I'm going to share an alternate view of it in just a minute. So before I go into the alternate view, I want to share with you where that teaching comes from. So this teaching comes from the book The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And this is a great book. So I'm not in any way disparaging the book. I think it is a fantastic book. I read it, it had to have been more than 20 years ago, whenever the book came out. And it helped me a lot. And the teaching that helped me the most was, out of the four agreements, the teaching that helped me the most was don't take anything personally. Because when people would do mean things or hurtful things, I would take it personally. I would feel like it was about me, like they didn't like me. I took it in a very, so not only was I hurt, but I felt like it was about me. Like if they didn't like me, there must be something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. It activated all of that kind of stuff. So that teaching helped me a lot. And before I go into the alternate view that I was going to mention, I want to share with you all four of the four agreements. And if you like this book, it's just this little small, like coffee table book. I've seen people have it in their bathroom. Like it's just this great book. And the book goes into details about the four agreements. Like you could read it in one sitting. It's a really great book. So let me go through these with you. And then we're going to focus on just that one teaching and an alternate view that I think might be helpful to some of you. And it looks like we also have Barbara here. Hello, Barbara. So the first agreement is be impeccable with your word. And the description is speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. The next agreement is don't take anything personally. And the description is nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Number 3, don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. And the fourth agreement is always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstance, simply do your best, and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. So these 4 agreements are a practice, meaning that you won't always get it perfect, but they are ideals to aspire to and practice on a daily basis. And so now let's talk about don't take anything personally. So, excuse me. This idea, don't take anything personally. There's a phenomenon that I've noticed in the metaphysical communities. And it's the tendency to take a perfectly wonderful and valuable and important spiritual teaching and to polarize it. And by polarize, I mean to like take it over here to the extreme where you apply that principle in a blanket way to like everything all the time, and there's no exceptions, and using it in a very oversimplified way that ends up not quite being appropriate. And what ends up happening with this particular teaching, don't take anything personally, is that when this is used in when this teaching is used in a misguided and overly simplified way, it ends up being used by people as a means to engage in spiritual bypassing. And spiritual bypassing is any spiritual practice or using any type of spiritual teaching or spiritual practice to avoid feeling your feelings and having a truly genuine human experience. So let me repeat that again. Spiritual bypassing is a means of using spiritual teachings, spiritual philosophies, spiritual practices to avoid, to bypass feeling your actual feelings and having an actual truly human experience. So like, it's like, ooh, I'm uncomfortable with this feeling, so I'm going to jump into some kind of spiritual practice or idea in order to keep me from feeling that feeling. So don't take anything personally. Then if somebody does something really hurtful, then you keep repeating the like affirmation to yourself. Don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. Meanwhile, you have genuine hurt. Your feelings are hurt. You feel sad. Maybe you're grieving. Just all of these feelings are coming up, but you're not letting yourself feel them because you're spiritually bypassing. Oh no. Okay, I think we're back. I think it looks like we lost our signal for a minute. So let's say somebody does something really hurtful to you, and instead of feeling your feelings, you are just simply spiritually bypassing and doing an affirmation over and over again. Don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. And then you're actually not allowing yourself to feel your feelings. Now, most of the time when people are doing that, they're thinking that they're doing this like wonderful spiritual thing. Like, I'm just being all loving and I'm being like ultra spiritual. They don't think to themselves, I'm spiritually bypassing right now. Like, they don't even, when people are spiritually bypassing, rarely do they realize they're spiritually bypassing. Usually there's a bit of spiritual elitism that's happening. Yeah, I'm so wonderful for, just moving into a space of love and forgiveness for this person who just did this like horrible, really mean, cruel thing. And what's really happening is maybe you haven't really, really actually forgiven them. And your feelings are genuinely hurt and you're very sad and angry maybe too. But you're not letting yourself feel that. It's just getting stuffed down into the body. And then, when we stuff things down into the body, then a lot of times that ends up showing up as pain, disease, imbalances, and so on. So we don't want to be doing that. So now you see what I mean, where like really I've seen pretty much every spiritual teaching out there be used in a polarized sort of way, where it's being applied in unhealthy ways, like oversimplified, misdirected. So I'm sorry, you guys. It looks like we keep losing our connection. So I'm going to keep right on going with my story where I left off, and hopefully everything is good. So as I was going through my process last week, I realized all of a sudden that I was trying to just overly apply the don't take anything personally idea. Because I was just feeling so hurt and upset, and I was like trying to shift out of that. Like, I don't want to keep feeling this way. I want to just, I remember imagining, like, I want to be one of those people that anybody could just say anything to them and nothing rocks their boat. They are just like this super strong person that, like, this, I don't know, I just kind of admire that quality, actually, that, like, anybody could say, like, the most horrible thing about them or about their character or, like, anything, and they wouldn't even bat an eye. They would be like, nope, see ya. Like it doesn't even faze them. And I was like, oh, and Jeannie's here too. Hi, Jeannie. And I was like, I just want to be like that. I just, I don't want to feel so upset. But I had this aha moment partway through the process. Was processing for a couple of days, actually, because I had a lot to process. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm trying to shift through this in a way where I'm not allowing myself to really feel what I'm feeling. Like, I was allowing my feelings, but I was also trying to hurry up and shift to don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. And by the way, there have been times when I've posted on Facebook that, like, there was this blah, blah, blah that happened, and, this was really hurtful, and I'm really upset about it. And I can't tell you how many people will just get on, and instead of being compassionate, they'll say, don't take anything personally. And, like, that's so not helpful, you guys. But we all do it, so I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying, like, if you are someone who does that on not just me, but if you do that on anyone's posts, I would encourage you to just shift instead of slapping a spiritual platitude onto their scenario. Try to flip to feeling empathy, like trying to truly understand and acknowledge the person's feelings. But anyway, I digress. So I was working through my feelings about it, and I had this epiphany that actually, in this case, it made sense to me to, instead of trying to be like the tough person, like anyone can say anything to me, let's look at what's real. So for me, what's true is that I'm a really sensitive person. And I don't think people would describe me as, like, tough as nails, a tough as nails person. And I'm a really sensitive person, and that's what makes me so good at my work. I'm able to feel what other people are feeling. I'm able to tune in and do psychic readings. I'm able to feel the energies of spirits. I'm able to feel a lot of different things, and that's a gift. And not only about it being a gift and allowing me to be of service, but it's part of who I am. So I am sensitive. And when people say and do hurtful things, it does hurt. It does hurt me. And so my epiphany was, yes, I can apply the don't take anything personally. That it's true that what people say and do, that's about whatever they have going on. Okay? Like, that's true. But a lot of people take that teaching to mean that you shouldn't feel anything. If anyone says the most horrible thing to you, you just shouldn't feel anything. Like, you shouldn't feel hurt or sad or grieving or anything like that, because you're not supposed to take anything personally. But the truth is that not taking anything personally and feeling hurt are two different things. So not taking anything personally means that you have the understanding that they did or said what they did because they're either confused or in pain, or they're on their own, they have their own interpretation, and it's not about you. Wow, you guys, I keep getting knocked off. So here I am. I'm gonna finish up my story. I hope it's recording. It doesn't usually do this. I'm not sure what's up. Maybe there's just a lot of energy. Who knows? So it's about recognizing that it's not about you, but then also balancing that with honoring your feelings. It's important to honor not only your feelings, but honor who you are, what your personality is. I know that there's a lot of people in this group who would consider themselves very sensitive energetically. And thanks, Jeannie. It is recording. Good. I know a lot of you would consider yourselves sensitive energetically, emotionally, etc. And don't try to just bypass that and shut that off when people throw the "don't take anything personally" like sugar sprinkles at you when your feelings are hurt because your feelings are valid. So there's kind of this both and with this teaching, and with every teaching, this understanding that you can use that teaching and it's really valuable, but you have to understand the nuance and how to apply it. And it's not so simple. So again, with this particular teaching, don't take anything personally, understanding that yes, people do things from a place of hurt or confusion. And there's a lot of that in the world. And sometimes we're the person who's doing things out of hurt and confusion towards someone else. So it's not always just directed at us. That's a reality. And so if someone does something hurtful, it's not because of you. Okay. It's not necessarily because of you, but it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to have genuine feelings. And when you have those genuine feelings, then allowing yourself to feel them and process them rather than trying to shut them down. So I think this is really important. I think I really wanted to come on and talk about this, about, just on a few different levels, about the tendency towards spiritual bypassing that is very prevalent right now and has been for a few years now in the metaphysical communities. The tendency for people specifically to not allow themselves to feel genuinely hurt when something hurtful has happened. And I think it's really important for us to honor our feelings and allow ourselves to grieve or feel angry, feel hurt, feel confused, whatever those feelings are, and not necessarily project them back to that other person, but to process. Like for me, I had a lot of stuff that was coming up. I was like, oh my God, I'm just so, like I said, I was like crying and shaking my fist at the sky. Like that's how frustrated and upset and hurt and everything that I was. So I carved out several hours last weekend, and I think I spent like 6 hours, maybe longer, on my front porch, out in nature, writing in my journal, just like writing down everything that had happened, just because I just needed to get the story out. There were several stories. I needed to get the stories out and just get it out. I just needed to get it onto paper so that it wasn't inside of me anymore. And then when I got done doing that, I then started to get some clarity on like the why, like why this is happening, and who I am, and just like those kinds of clarities. And I know not everyone's going to be able to take 6 hours to do that. I have a unique life that, like, I don't have children. I was not able to have children. I don't have a partner, so like I can just go on my front porch for 6 hours. But even an hour of processing time, talking with a friend, going out for coffee, talking with your therapist, writing in your journal, all of that is a really good way to process what's coming up for you when you're trying to not take things personally, but there's hurt feelings. So that is my little tidbit. So again, if you're interested in the book, it is The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And there's another book that I actually is out of reach, but I'm going to tell you about it. It's called Spiritual Bypassing. And I believe the author is Robert Masters, I think. I'm pretty sure. But it's the only book out there called Spiritual Bypassing. And he explains what that phenomenon is. I think you guys would find it very, very helpful. I know that everybody who's in this group is very interested in personal growth. And if you are also into spiritual growth and spiritual practices, then I highly encourage that you read the book Spiritual Bypassing, because I'm just so glad that he wrote his book, because there's so many unhealthy spiritual practices right now. And that's my perspective, is that there's just a lot going on that's causing a lot of confusion and misdirection. And there's another book that I will recommend that I actually don't have in my hands. I don't even own it yet, but I've been following the author for a while, and I need to get the book. I wonder if it's on Kindle. I'm going to read it this weekend. It's called Grounded Spirituality by Jeff Brown. Grounded Spirituality by Jeff Brown. And you can probably tell by the title what that's about. And he helps dispel, he's coming from a more spiritual perspective, whereas Robert Masters is coming from, he's a psychologist or counselor. I don't remember. He's a PhD of some kind. So 2 different perspectives, but equally important and different ways of saying it. So I would highly recommend those books. I feel like they're really important for my own personal journey, and that's why I recommend them to you all. But also, just like tying this up in a neat little package here, the work that I do is all about spiritual empowerment. So that's about like living aligned with your life purpose. It's also learning how to manage your energy. It's also learning what to do if there's any type of spiritual warfare going on in your life, and understanding what's what with that, and how to manage it, how to clear it. And the thing with all of those aspects is that we have to be looking at our stuff. We have to be looking at what our blocks are. We have to be working on our personal growth, because, for example, if there's someone who's dealing with spiritual warfare issues, if they just are working on clearing out whatever the paranormal issue is, we can achieve a temporary result usually, but then the same or a similar issue will reoccur later at some point in time, because whatever unresolved issue within themselves that made them a match for that issue hasn't been resolved. And so when we have unresolved traumas, ways of operating in the world, ways of not being in our power, ways that we're spiritually bypassing and avoiding being with our real process. All of that can make us more vulnerable to some of the other issues that can occur. And so that's how that all ties together. It's really important to do all of that work, to do the deeper personal transformation work, the personal reflection, and the taking ownership for what's yours, like what is yours that you need to work on, and to work on it. So I think that's it for today. I was going to do this video outside, and anyway, I decided not to. But I love doing Facebook Lives outside, out in nature. Whenever I go outside, I'm always like in the mood to share information with you all. It seems like it opens me up more. I'm able to get more of a direct download, even more so. And so now that it's spring, I think I'm getting a yes intuitively on this. Yes, I think we can expect more Facebook Lives. It's not going to be 2 months until the next one. I'm certain of that. It might be a couple of weeks. Who knows? Again, I don't have things on a schedule. So we're going to let things unfold as we go. But I will be sure when we do a Facebook Live, I'll be sure to post an announcement like the day before. So do stay connected with the group. Pay attention to the posts, and always remember, you can post things yourself, whatever you're going through, or, something inspirational or whatever. Facebook groups are intended for like group sharing. It's not just my page. Okay. So feel free to get on there and share and talk and make it your own. And again, for anyone who's watching the replay on YouTube, it's the Spiritual Empowerment Community with Maya Zahira. And you'll be able to find that just by doing a search. And if you want to know more about my other services and my 12-month program, Spiritual Empowerment Academy, you can find that on my website, www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And I will see you all next time. Be blessed.